Well, hello, this is Pastor Henzy of the Filling Station, and welcome to the Filling Station podcast. Now, the Filling Station is designed for believers, dreamers, and achievers. I've accepted the assignment of helping that group to live the fullness of their creation. Now, the Filling Station is actually a service that's 59 minutes in length on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. But we've been in this incredible series that I really have been enjoying called God's Plan. And what's different about it is a lot of people teach planning, but what we do as believers is to bring our whole self to the planning process. Now, when I say that, I mean we do research and we get revelation. And so we use our physical side and our spiritual side, and we combine all of that to make a plan that's strategic, systematic, and spiritual. So we've been in the series talking about the G's. The G's are the goal, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, the game plan. Now today, we're on the G that undermines more people than you would imagine. It is the group. And so when we look at even the biblical models, God will give a dream to an individual. Now, important note here, I cannot find a place in the Bible where God gives a dream or a vision to a group. God gives the dream or the vision to an individual and then surrounds them with a group to help make it happen. And if you're living in a dream, if you have a plan, you're going to have a group too. You know, I even look at it like this. Even Jesus, which was God and man, had a group. We kind of jokingly call it his crew. Now, his crew was extensive. A lot of people miss that detail. We talk so much about the 12 disciples, but there were a lot more than 12. There were 3 in the inner group, then you had the 12, and then there's cases when you hear about the 70, and then there's another case where they talk about 125. And so Jesus had a group that helped him carry out his vision. Now, let's think about this. Without Jesus's group, his vision would have died with him. Even with the resurrection, who would have carried on the message? But because Jesus had a group, over 2,000 years later, his mission still continues. And so my point here is, if Jesus needed a group, you do too. Now, I think it is fascinating when we began to look at how Jesus picked his group. Now, it wasn't just this random, you're my cousin, you're my friend, you grew up with me. That's not who he put in his group. He was extremely strategic with who the group was. I always find this fascinating that his first round draft pick was Peter, and Peter was basically a thug. But he had this toughness, this grittiness, this directness that Jesus knew he needed in his crew. In fact, a fascinating study is to go through and look at the personality traits we can discern for each member of his crew. Jesus had members of the crew that were more legalistic. He had members of the crew that was very detailed oriented. He had members of the crew that was more saged at handling money. And so what I'm telling you is, once you set your goal and you develop your game plan, let's look at strategically, who do you need in your mix? You do not need a crew where everybody's just like you. And that's what a mistake a lot of people make. Have you ever went into a company and seen everybody look alike? And that's a case where they're not hiring out of need, they're hiring out of likeness. And I don't want you to do that. You don't need everybody to be kumbaya in your group. You need some hardcore people in that group. You need some people that will hold you to task. You need some people that are people oriented and some people that are task oriented. You know, like in Jesus's crew, they talk about John, and John was noted for being more loving, more compassionate, more sensitive. But you can't have a whole crew of that. It is the mix of the crew that makes the goal come to life. And so what I'm asking you to do is look at how you pick the people around you. Is it simply geographic? These are people that grew up in my neighborhood, and so now I'm gonna put everybody on. Is it, we all went to school together? What is the criteria that you need to consider when you're putting a group together to support your dream? And it is understanding, kind of like the Bible says, it becomes one body and every part is important. For example, your parents might play an important part. If what your goal is may require you to leave your children some, you might need additional support from a parent. Or if you have to work late, who is the support person that could step in for your child at that moment? And not that everybody has children, but everybody has needs. Everybody has proclivities. Y'all listen. There was a point when I had a business, and I did not understand this concept of crew. Well, that's not true. I had crew, but I did not add needed members of the crew when I needed them. So by nature, I am what a person would call a developmental manager. What that means is I'm a creator. I am most happy, I am most me, I am most energetic when you allow me to create new stuff. I am not a good maintenance manager. Like when the time cards gotta be turned in, getting the accounting reports, that's not my greatest strength. And so I had a business where I was the lead, I had a crew, but none of them were maintenance managers. And then I had another dream and I wanted to go and start another business. It was a related business, but another business. And the problem I had was every time I would leave to try to create this business, my business that was already thriving would fall down. So then I'd have to come back, put energy into it, get it back up. And then when I tried to go back to development, it would fall down. So we kept doing this teeter-totter thing, and I was never able to get the other business up. Where if I had just recognized, add another member to the crew, I could have added a maintenance manager that could have taken this, managed it, and hear this. At that point, I could have hired a good maintenance manager, $35,000. And I allowed $35,000 to cost me the millions I could have made in an additional facility because I didn't recognize I needed a new member of the crew. I had the crew that helped me get it started, and I did need all of them, but I needed to add another element to the group. And so simply what I'm saying to you today is take a look at your dream, take a look at your goal, and sit down and start identifying what is the crew, what is the group that you need to make this dream live. I loved something I heard T.D. Jakes said once when he said, if you see a turtle sitting on a fence post, you know he didn't get there by himself. And that's what I'm saying to you. For someone particular, I'm not sure exactly who this is for, but stop being the Lone Ranger. Stop feeling like you have to do it all yourself and engage a crew. Well, this is Pastor Henzy Green. Thank you for joining me for the Filling Station podcast. We'll be right back here next week. Share it with some friends so we can grow this audience. I take seriously my assignment to help believers, dreamers, and achievers live a pinch me life. That's a life so good, you got to pinch yourself to see if you're awake. Thank you for joining me. See you again next week.